wanted me to too, but.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 12th Muscatine City Council meeting. Cinda, will you please do the roll call?
Councilmember Spread,
Present.
Harvey,
Present.
Rockert,
Present.
Saucedo,
Present.
Brackett,
Present.
Fitzgerald,
Here.
Malcolm,
Present.
7 present, 0 absent, Your Honor.
Thank you. Well, thank you, everyone, for coming tonight. We just have a couple of things on our in-depth meeting this month. The first thing we're going to do, we had a little switcho-changeo in the agenda, thanks to Jim. We're going to have a presentation by the Muscatine Lions Club. Rick Bauer's going to please come up to the podium. I had a call, maybe a month and a half ago from the Lions Club, and they said that other communities frequently will have a sign at some of the entry gates of their community saying Muscatine Lions Club or Muscatine Rotary Club or Muscatine Kiwanis, just to let the folks coming in and out of town to know that those service organizations are here. And so they're here tonight to talk to council about what it is that they would like to see going forward. So Mr. Bauer, please state your name and address.
Okay, it's Rick Bauer, 1981 Cranbrook Cross, Muscatine.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Representing Lions Club here in Muscatine, and I don't know if you know, but Muscatine Lions Club has been around forever, for a really long time, and this current chapter has been around 16 years and has been going strong ever since. And if you look around our communities around Muscatine and even Des Moines, if you enter those towns, you get to see a sign from some of the service organizations, be it Kiwanis or Rotary or Lions Club. And we're looking for a chance to be able to purchase signs and build a sign either on the north end and south end entry to town to be able to display our logo and our badge. And so that's what we're looking for support. And I know that we've spoken to Kiwanis and Rotary and the Chamber, and they're all seem to be behind us and would like to see the signage on the road. And as you know, it's tough to get people to be involved and to keep these service organizations going. And I think that any kind of help in that direction would be needed and wanted for our community to hopefully drum up some more excitement and keep those service organizations growing, because Lions Club in itself does quite a bit for Muscatine. We operate about a $7,000 to $10,000 budget, and all of that gets put back into the community in the form of eye screenings for kids, hearing aids, or replacing glasses or contacts for kids or families that can't afford it at the time when they need it the most. So that's what we're looking for. There's a little bit of help and support from the council.
Thank you. Did you bring some pictures with you so we could have an idea?
Yes, I do have some pictures from a couple local spots. And if you take a look, particularly at the Walcott sign, we want it to be tasteful, of course, and we're not looking for funds from the council by any means or anything like that. It's more about we would just like to be able to provide this for the city. So.
Okay. Councilman Saucedo has a question.
Yes.
You mentioned other cities. What other cities could you
Right
give us
there is
examples?
Walcott, Durant, Tipton, and of course Des Moines has it right outside. I lived in Des Moines for 5 or 6 years, and they're still there, and my wife's from Des Moines, and so we talk, and we're like, well, Des Moines even has them, and they show them in a nice way. There's some signs on there that I particularly don't like. I mean, I wouldn't want a whole spread of everything that this city has to offer on a metal grid, but I think something tasteful could be done. I know the Chamber mentioned that we could do maybe something with the stone entry sign to Muscatine, and maybe I don't see that so much, but maybe just beyond it on the entryway to town, we could do something tasteful. And I think Wolcott is a good, inexpensive way, or less expensive way to maybe look at something like that.
Thank you. Councilwoman Brockert.
Rick, I like your idea. I happen to be president of the Fruitland Community Lions, so I have talked with Connie about this earlier. How do we plan to maintain should you get the sign erected, how are you going to maintain so that it doesn't look weathered and worn after a couple of years?
I think that as Lions Club here in Muscatine, we maintain a couple different, apparatuses for donating here in town at Fairway and at Muscatine, and that would just be part of our group in order to maintain the sign and make sure it's worthy of the signage or the posting coming to Muscatine. And so I think that could be handled just through our club. And if it gets so weathered that we have to replace it, we can replace it.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Does our current code allow this or not?
Well, Andrew had some okay, go ahead, Andrew. I didn't even see you were here. You're on the wrong side tonight.
Sorry, switching things up. Mayor, council, there's two code issues with this idea that would have to be addressed. The main thing, particularly if you're talking about placing the sign in public right away, the first being that right now, city code does not permit for private signs to be placed in the public right away. Council could potentially change that there's some issues to consider in light of recent court rulings you have to consider. But if we're talking the entrances they're talking about coming into town, there's a bigger issue that needs to be considered. So Highway 61, Park Avenue, all those state highways, those fall under state jurisdiction. And I don't know if the memo I wrote late yesterday got around to everyone. The state has a set of rules that apply within 660 feet of all state highways, and in this specifically, these type of signs have to be placed outside the public right of way. So what it means is, for this type of signs, you'd need to find a willing landowner and have them put it on it. And right now, if you were to do that on private land, that would just be a standard $50 sign permit, one-time fee. You'd come down to City Hall, get like any other signs.
Okay. I noticed that the Lone Tree one is on a road going into Lone Tree, and then there's some on Highway 22, which is a state highway.
Those are probably just on the other side of the right-of-way line. So,
Okay.
you can come pretty close to the right, but it has to be on the other side. It has
Sure.
to be on that side of the property line.
Okay, thank you,
So
Andrew.
could we come up with some locations that you can share with him to see that there's potentials, or? Because, I mean, obviously, if we're either gonna make it's gonna be a challenge to try to make a code change like that unless
Well,
you.
and I think the bigger point is for the entryways that they want to, the high-traffic entryways into town, regardless of what the city would do for city right-of-way, that doesn't help because it's, you'd have to change the Iowa Administrative Code. So that's why you need to find, all these organizations do good work, have good support. I would hope that there'd be some willing landowner out there that'd be willing to accommodate them on their property. In which case, then it's just a standard E sign, which is,
I think he was asking if you could help them.
I can help them
Come up with some
identify,
of those.
who those property owners
Yeah.
are, but yeah.
At least to share that if there's a way we could, talk with them, or at least not us, but maybe they could as far as an organization goes, but.
I may be wrong, but I swore I saw a Muscatine Rotary sign on 22 coming up on Washington, right there where it takes the turn. I could have sworn there was one there. Maybe not.
Does it fall under the maintained by? Is it one of those?
I don't know.
That might
Maybe.
be what that is.
Might
Phil and I sit on the Magic board, and I think we would both recommend, if you get on the Magic website, you could very easily find out who the property owner is. I very much support the concept, but if state code is an issue, then I don't know how we can help there other than, I support the concept. If there was somewhere within the city limits that, we would be asked about, I would be in support of finding a way to place it there. If the state code causes an issue with the sites that you're looking for, then absolutely, reaching out to property owners to see who would be willing to allow you that space, I think would be a great idea. But if there's something, like I said, I'd be in support of, looking for, if there's somewhere in town where it's not impacted by that state code, looking at some options there.
I'm not interested in having city staff searching.
No,
Well, I was just
I mean,
asking
but
this
if
is
Magic
location.
would be an option because you can get the property owner and everything, and you can see how much right of way there is. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, we could do some legwork and then maybe I could work.
And the other option is the chamber has those big stone things. I think those are on private property.
They are?
And
They are.
so you might check with the chamber and see if you could co-locate.
Councilman Malcolm, did you have?
I have a question. Everybody's dancing with private property, but I'm used to seeing these lion signs all over the place on all the kind of highways and county roads. So that tells me there's probably a provision if you talk to the Department of Transportation and see if there's a way to ask for an exemption Or do they have a special provision for a service agency? I'm sure that might be possible as well.
Mayor, Council, I can send to you all again the link where they do talk about it. They, even they, it has to be on, it still, they explicitly say it has to be on private property. But also probably the reason you've seen a lot in the past and that is that there was a major Supreme Court ruling that affects this type of signage that was issued in 2017. And essentially what that says is if you as a public body are opening that opportunity to one group, you can't say, you can't, it's content neutrality is the concept. So you couldn't say, well, these groups are worthy, but, whatever other group in town, we don't want to do that. So it's kind of an all or none proposition. So that there was, we had to rewrite our sign code because of that ruling too. So things changed quite a bit in 2017.
And a lot of these other ones have probably been around since 1960. I mean, I go through a lot of, on my way up to Ames, Story County area, I take the back roads occasionally, and you go through a bunch of towns, and you will see this, huge sign frames and vertical signs, and all the organizations are on there. But I don't know whether it's on private property or not. It's
If I had to guess,
on the roadside.
Is that they're probably just on the other side of the line because, usually, the right-of-way line, 10, 20 feet off the edge of the curb, so.
Yep, you get your sign big enough that people can view it from 20 foot as they pass. This isn't a problem.
If you'd like to talk, you need to come up to the podium. As you're getting ready, I would just wanted to add something in. I would imagine, since this is a fairly new thing, Andrew, there's probably a lot that might still be where they're not supposed to be that haven't been changed, and it's probably not like the sign police is out trying to get everybody right away, I would assume. Would you state your name and address?
Yes, I'm Connie Fuller. My address is 2562 Pettibone.
You could pull that down just a little bit, so,
Even better.
there you go.
Yeah. First of all, we have signs up, a strip a mile long each side on Tipton, between Tipton Road and Islet, where we do clean up the ditches every year, and we've done that for several years. The Tipton, the big sign, I got some background on it, was erected like in 2011, and the Lions Club said they were going to go for it because others were asking for signage to be put up. And since it is, there's three of them, they are on highways, 38 and 130, they had to have the Highway Commission sign off on the okay of that. But structurally, they got together, put it together, all put their signs up, and it was done. And I don't know who maintains it at this point, if there's weeds underneath that grow that somebody goes in. I would say it's probably line members that would do this because they're very active and there's a big club. But I'd just like to see that the Lions Club can get some recognition that we're here and
Sure.
been here for almost 16 years.
Well, Andrew is our city planner, and is sharing that because of the new law in 2017, the best case scenario to make this happen is to put it on private property. If you were still holding out hope for it to be on the state highway, I suppose that would be something that your organization could approach and try to get some kind of a waiver, and then that would be a different story for us if you had clearance from them. But my guess is that would be a daunting task. So Councilman Fitzgerald is suggesting that you go on the Magic website, which lays out the property in the whole community, and it sounds like Mr. Bauer is familiar with Magic. And if you can come up with some private property owners that are willing, I'm sure, I know I would speak on your behalf to them if you asked me to. Another thing would be to go together. I know the flower thing, the entrance to the community out on 61 that the Chamber of Commerce put up, right? It's possible that they might be willing to partner with you and let you put
Or
something
sign
up
up.
there.
Okay. I understood that there was city property down where Dick Drake Way and Highway 92 South meet, and that was cleaned up, that we could use that, and also where there was a billboard at one time by Contrary Brewing, that was owned by the city, that we would probably be able to put signage up, but if that's changed.
According to Andrew, it doesn't sound like that'd be possible. Santos, were you wanting to say
No,
something?
I was just,
Okay.
I didn't know that what
Okay.
you were saying,
Okay.
that's all.
It sounds like Jim Edgemond is our city engineer.
Right.
Wants to share something there.
So the billboards at Contrary Brewing were like 1/3 on private property and 2/3 on city right of way, and Andrew and I worked for 2 years, 2.5 years to get those out because they aren't supposed to be on public right of way. There was never a variance or anything granted for
So are they gone now?
They're gone.
So the property that you're talking about at Dick Drake Way, is that all private, or is that all city property, Andrew?
Mayor, council, we did acquire, Dick Drake. So are you talking where,
92 and 61 intersect?
so that's still gonna fall within 660 feet of a state highway where the state rules apply.
Is it close? Or no? It's well within that, you believe?
I'd have to look up and get back to you. I couldn't tell you
Okay.
that off the top of my head.
I think this, I
Yes,
think the
please.
suggestion I would make would be maybe for Andrew to go ahead and just provide the information that was provided to us, provide it to the group, and for the group to maybe go do some legwork on that and see where, where you can put the signage. I think it sounds like there's some options for it, but there's a lot of restrictions that are outside of our control. We can't change any state code. And so if you wanted an exemption to that, you'd have to reach out to a different body than us. And within city limits, we would definitely be opening ourselves up to other potential issues that we would have to review first before, considering any kind of exemption within the city code because of that federal ruling that came out. Was it a federal ruling, Andrew, or state?
It's Supreme Court ruling, but,
Federal Supreme Court?
yeah,
Okay.
Reed versus the town of Gilbert. But the other thing I'd like to add is if you do find a willing property owner, just on the other side of the right of way, that there's, come in, we'll issue
Right.
the sign permit over the counter, no delay, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
So that,
And you said that one of the issues, or Jim said that one of the issues with those billboards was that they were partially on private property and partially on city right of way. So there's a property line there that they could maybe reach out to that property owner.
By Contrary Brewing?
But they were up on top. The vertical height was a little steep.
Could, but boy, I wouldn't encourage it because the property is more vertical than horizontal at that point.
Right. Just a thought. I would encourage the group to, research the locations that you want to put the signs and figure out if there's if there's private property right there, and that sounds like the best option to me.
I even think this could almost be a project for one of the Leadership Muscatine groups to work with several service organizations and try to put together a project to display the logos and signs for all of the service organizations at several of our entrances to the community. And that would be something that they might be able to try to find a private landowner and develop a sign that would be tasteful and include all the service organizations' logos, which, I don't know how many there are considered service organizations besides Kiwanis Rotary and Lions Club. But that might be something to reach out to them too. I know they're just starting a new group.
Mayor,
Yes,
the memo with the background information is posted on the city's website.
All right, thank you.
thank you. So, but please reach out to us as you're going through this process. If you come up with any questions, or any roadblocks we can help with. Thank you for coming. Appreciate it. Next, we're going to have Jim is going to talk to us about a few more SUDAS updates.
Mayor, council, first thing I want to do is give you guys a chance to escape easily. I'm quite sure you're not interested in any of this. You can stay if you want. Almost sounds like a threat. You can stay if you want.
And as you guys, if you guys get on the website, on the city's website and look through all that, if you can come up with or think of something that we haven't touched on or you have a question, please reach back out.
All right, Mayor, council, the dreaded SUDAS presentation is on the in-depth tonight, and it's going to be a little longer than the usual one. I pride myself in being able to put it out here and put it in front of you in 6 minutes or so. But I have that and just a few other miscellaneous things to deal with tonight, and I took the liberty of including them all. But I'm going to hand out this document. I want to emphasize, in no uncertain terms, this is a draft. So this document is a fill in the blank.
Draft?
Thank you. Don't do anything with it. Don't show it to anybody. Don't publish it. Because it is still in progress. We intend to, yeah. Specifically, I'm pointing at Phil in this case.
I got a new website.
We have made the commitment, obviously, to adopt SUDAS. And those 3 books in front of you are the sum total height, width, and breadth of what SUDAS is. But it's a daunting book, and we foolishly thought we could, by now, would have worked our way through it. And in a nice engineering, neat package, would have been able to read through that, find everything that we really didn't agree with or didn't think fit Muscatine, and come up with a document that said these are the exceptions. So we adopt SUDAS, but here's the exceptions. We have failed miserably at that. We cannot seem to find the time to do it. And the thought has occurred to us that what we wish to do, and this is the major point of tonight's presentation, what we wish to do is to adopt SUDAS with this in its final form as a few guidelines that will clarify or bring out the things that maybe we want to do that are a little different. This is not a complete document. This is almost like this is going to be almost like adopting a housing code, fire and safety code, and then we'll come back to you and say, you know, here's something that we'd like to change. This really isn't working for us. We're gonna modify it.
So basically,
And
instead
what-
of, sorry.
Go ahead.
Instead of going through it all and coming and asking us to adopt it with these exclusions, you want us to adopt it now, and then as we find the exclusions,
Yeah.
address them as we go.
As we find things that don't fit or things that don't work, we will modify this set of guidelines, and then we can bring this set of guidelines back through you and say, we've changed this way. And it will be, I think, a much easier process to work our way through and a much smarter process, and actually probably the only process where we can get this thing pulled off and adopted quickly, because I think it really is going to benefit us if we can get this. The quicker we can do this and adopt this, I think the more standardized we're going to be on things we do and how we do them. And we're going to get rid of a lot of confusion, because these guidelines used to be the only thing that was out on the city's website, and they were not really in tune with what we were doing.
So when would you want this adopted?
We are going to shoot for a meeting here in about a month, because we hope to have worked our way
Clean
through
that
all
up a
of
little
this.
bit.
And then we'll know where we're at on that. But the one thing I want to bring out to you tonight, a specific, if there are no questions on that little bit of information, is a specific, is those numbers 556 now is 544. That's sidewalk. And when we started into this, we were convinced that what we were going to do was a 5-foot wide sidewalk, and it was going to be 5 inches thick, and it was going to be on 6 inches of granular material. We have seen the error of our ways, because honestly, a little bit ago, if you'd asked me what the standard in SUDAS was, I would have told you that's what the SUDAS standard is. It's not. That's not what SUDAS' standard is. It's actually 5 foot wide, 4 inches thick on 4 inches at a minimum of granular material underneath it. And so we've been supremely confident in our ignorance with what we've done here lately with the right-of-way inspector. And we have had contractors do some work to that standard, and it wasn't the standard. Hard to admit, but I'm willing to admit it. So we want to get to that clarification with you guys right now. The only thing that is a little different from that, or maybe is a little better than that, is we also, through this right-of-way inspector, have learned that there's always an exception to the rule. So in some of these older sections of town, if you're just replacing a piece of sidewalk and it's 4 foot for 6 blocks in one direction and 7 blocks in the other, what sense does it make to go ahead and make that sidewalk 5 foot right there? So we do, on a case-by-case basis, allow that sidewalk to go back in at 4 foot wide, just to match what's out there. And so that I wanted to just bring to you as a specific. All right.
I have, can I have a question?
Go ahead.
Fire away. No, this is all open question. You
The-
can stay here as late as you want, Phil. I'm
Pardon?
trying to move this along, but you can
No,
stay.
I know, but when you say you're gonna do 4 foot wide on sidewalk on a case-by-case basis, people.
How does the
get-
contractor know how to bid it?
Exactly, and then if you're replacing your entire sidewalk and it's existing 4 foot, and everything for the 200 foot on either side's 4 foot, why would we even have to go talk about 5 foot wide sidewalk?
Well, because you have to get a permit now for that.
Oh, I know, but
So what has started to evolve is that the contractors that are out there are starting to say, hey, we're going to come get a permit for this, and we chat with them about it in advance, and that seems to be working all right. We haven't heard any recent complaints. And yeah, a contractor could just stand back and say, well, it's hard for me to bid because I don't know whether I need to put it in 5 foot or 4 foot.
Right.
If you just invest just a small little bit of time and give us a call, we'll go out there, we'll look at it, and we'll tell you what the permit can be for. And I don't know how else to address that.
So under what situation, if you've got 200 feet one direction and 100 foot the other direction, under what situation would you want 5 foot wide sidewalk put in?
We probably wouldn't.
I know, but it just doesn't.
So what if it's a new construction?
But if it's a new construction, or it's a start of construction, or there are, let me give you the best example I can give you. It's off of, I can't think of the street. It's not very far from Discovery Park, coming back towards Fulham, or coming back towards Hauser, and it's not Fulham. It's the next street north of that. What is that street?
Allen Street?
Coming toward.
Duncan. I think it's Duncan.
Duncan's, yeah.
Anyhow, I'm not sure exactly where that is, but there's a building that's built there, and for some reason, when that building was built, they only put new sidewalk in across about 3/4 of the frontage of it. Just came to the driveway and went back over to this sidewalk. I think the thought was, well, nothing will ever get built on the other side of it, so they didn't do the whole frontage. Now there's a new building coming in on this side of it. Now, it's all out there by itself, so you can do something like say, well, gee, you can build this 5 foot piece of sidewalk, and then you got a gap, and then you've got 4 foot sidewalk that goes on for a little while. Well, that doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense. But when we hit that situation, we just ask. It never hurts to ask. We said, look, if we can give you a break in the rules and make that a 4 foot sidewalk, can we tuck you into filling in the gap? They said they would. So there's instances like that. There's instances, and honestly, to me, it's complicated enough that I think you just have to take one instance at a time as they come in. But for sure, you're not going to go wrong if you've got 4 foot sidewalk for hundreds of feet in every direction. We're not going to come in and say it needs to be 5 foot if you're going to replace it.
So for example, on 8th Street where we just redid the streets,
Yes.
what did we do there?
We did 5 foot. I mean, you're putting new sidewalk in for blocks in a couple places there. So we adhere to the standard there.
Okay, so 5 feet,
Yeah.
4 inch
No.
thick?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. But there is one small little place in there where it's pretty tight on right of way, and the drainage is a real problem. And to make room for a couple little inlets there to try to solve this problem, we snuck a foot off of that sidewalk. So there's a small little section of that sidewalk that's 4 foot in there. And that's kind of goes to the point. There's some places where it makes sense to do that, and if the standard is the standard. It applies to all new subdivisions. It applies to stuff that's new and out where there's 5-foot sidewalks, but I think you just have to do it case by case for the other stuff. So that's what we're planning on doing, unless you guys tell me that I need to go back to the drawing board.
No, my only thing is just I want to be able to be clear when we start stating, okay, if you're doing a sidewalk, and I think you mentioned on this is, if it's going in through a driveway, if somebody has a driveway access, then that sidewalk's gonna be, that portion of it will be thicker.
Right.
In regards to accessing it. So maybe
And that's in essence what
this
is
is
everything
calling
that will be in this, and this will be on the city's website, as to the guidelines and it will have that stuff specifically in it.
And then, does it specifically, it'll state how much base they need to have and what kind of
Yes.
base? Or just a
Yes.
compaction?
No, it will state exactly how much, and it may not sound like a specific term to you, but it is to us, granular subbase. So subbase is defined in there.
Rock.
Yeah, rock.
Sounds. And what do you mean by when you're calling AC4 for fly ash content? Are they specifically then requesting a different type of a concrete?
Any contractor can request whatever kind of concrete mix they want to use, but if you're going to build a city street for us, that is what we would like them to use. A C4WR C15 S20.
Which is a higher grade. Okay.
And there's a couple reasons for that. I'm very sure you're not interested in what those
No,
reasons are.
I know what C4 is, and I know it just cures faster and it's definitely more expensive. Because it's gonna have more concrete.
It actually is, the reason we use it is because it gives us great results, and it is because it has fly ash and granulated blast furnace slag in it, another pozzolon that still acts like fly ash does. We get, on warm sunny days, we'll get the 550 PSI structural strength in 3 days. I mean, it just cures and gets its strength fairly quickly, and we like that. The downside of that is if you decide you're going to pour concrete in the middle of winter and it's really, really cold, you got to take those other pozzolans out. You got to take the fly ash out of it. But it's still a C4, standard C4 mix.
Yep. I'm good with it.
We spent a lot more time on that than I was planning, but I'm glad you guys got questions. Super. Okay, so that takes care of 1 and 2. Just really quick, we'll get to the easy stuff now. Just really quick, item 3, just in case you've heard any grumbling about the temporary signals that we put out for the patching. If you haven't, that's wonderful, and we've done our job. But we kind of set on a 90-second cycle length that is about how long, if you hit it absolutely wrong, as you pull up, the cars disappear and the light turns red on you, you are probably going to sit there for 90 seconds. We tried 2 minutes, and we couldn't even tolerate sitting there waiting for it to change again, so we figured that was too long. So,
I've used it a few times.
Yeah.
And I've seen people that when they hit it right when it turns red, if they're heading south, they just turn left on Musser and go around.
yeah, and in that instance there, it's got a built-in little
You're
detour
gonna
if
get
you
there
don't
at the
want to
same
wait.
time probably, but then you're not sitting still, I guess. I don't know.
Yep.
It worked just fine for me because I pulled up to it right as it turned red and thought, oh great, I'm gonna be sitting here for no reason, but about 6 cars came towards me, so it was better than dodging.
And honestly, it's working like a charm. I mean, they are really being able to get large work zones and get that stuff done quicker.
Go ahead.
I was coming the other way.
Do we have on this patching group, are they at any time right now doing more than one patch in the city?
Say that again.
So let's say, are they working on Hauser Street and then maybe working on Park Avenue at the same time?
This contractor has chosen to stay, sit down on the street and get after it and get it done and then move on.
So they're not moving from different spots? Because I
No.
know that's what we had last year with.
And that was the bane of my existence for a while, because I honestly didn't really agree with that contractor on that subject. But the hire is doing a great job. They are sticking with those sections, and they're sticking with them till they get them done, and then they move on.
And the only reason why I was making that question was in regards to if we do end up separating and we start having multiple different groups, then I'd like to request, if we look at next year's budget, to have that same contractor or whoever contractor we get another set of lights.
We can sure look at that,
That
absolutely.
If it turns out that we end up saying, hey, we're really gonna put, because I think Malcolm's gonna look a lot of money into the streets for next year's budget. And I think if we do that, then we need to accommodate multiple different streets with those signals if they're working safely.
And just as a short little counterpoint to that, Santos, they have done multiple setups on South Hauser there.
Yeah.
And as long as they've got the one big one that's reserved for them with the signals, they didn't have any problem at all with putting up a short little, please alternate to get done the other little things that they wanted to. So that might also work too. We're still evaluating how that all is going to go.
If it turns out that next year we end up having huge moves and
Yeah.
ones on Park Avenue, because that's what we saw last year where it was getting a lot of calls.
Yeah.
Because they were all over by Hy-Vee, then they
yep.
were over,
And
South
we
End.
still have a very busy, short piece of street with a lot of patches, Lake Park still to do too. So we're still gonna figure this out and let's see what happens.
Okay.
One other quick little thing about PCC patching. We have a relatively large experiment built into this year's PCC patching. And it's, I don't know how else to say this. This is gonna be confusing, but patching can be full depth and patching can be partial depth. So there are DOT specs and SUDA specs that allow for something called a partial depth patch. So we have some partial depth patches out there on Hauser that we put in. And it is our sincere hope, because of the way they were put in, that we learned how private industry figured out how to do that. And I think the street department can benefit from a little bit of that knowledge. And we're going to evaluate those and see how long they last. If they last a long period of time, then we might do more of it. And if they don't, God forbid the snowplows peel those babies out this winter, we're going to say, oops, maybe that wasn't such a good experiment. But my previous experience with those is that they are great things. And if you think about it, if you decide instead of making one 10 square foot full depth patch, you can do 20 square foot of a partial depth patch. You're going to take your dollars for doing maintenance on streets and you're going to double it. You're going to stretch it twice as far as it can go. So I just want you to be aware there's
Did
an
we know
experiment out
that?
there.
I guess I was under the assumption we were doing all full depth this year.
You knew it.
Okay.
I've mentioned it once before when we
Okay.
talked about it, but
Okay.
I didn't really hit it that hard. I mean, there's full depth
slipped it
patching and
in.
there's partial depth patching, and I don't think anybody asked any questions at that point in time.
Uh-huh.
Can you share with us in an email maybe what that is later? Maybe what it is
There's
as far
a
as-
standard detail in SUDAS. I'll send you what that looks like.
Just send us the link for me and
Yeah.
I'll read through it.
Okay. Just for your information, West Side Trail will start soon. It's a new world for federally funded projects. We have Doc Express and Appia, which are two computer programs that don't bother to speak to one another, that we have to fight our way through. Mayor, how did that work today?
I'm not there yet. Getting there.
And we have gone from it taking the mayor, well, how long does it take you to write your signature? A second?
Yeah,
Okay, so we've gone from it taking a second to
we're hours in.
page and a half of instructions. That's how it takes to
And
electronically
now I
sign
have
a
to
contract.
start all over because I put Broderson Diana instead of Diana Broderson.
They didn't
on
approve the
one.
electronic signature?
No, I gotta do it again.
I'm sorry, my apologies. We're learning on that too, this is the first one we've done.
We'll get it.
Yeah. Okay, and item 5. Roundabout phasing, as you guys know, we had that meeting, little public information meeting on that. And one of the clear messages that came back from the downtown business owners was just leave us alone during the holiday season. Okay, so we go back to the contract, we talked to the contractor, now we've got a couple things here that are gonna fight their way against one another, and I shouldn't use the word fight, we don't wanna fight with these guys. But in chatting with the contractor, to get the underground in, he would really like to try to still get the underground work out there done this fall. And there's some underground work that can be done without closing the streets. And then there's some underground work out there that you could do if you just closed the south leg of Mulberry, going towards the river. You could close that and leave the other 3 streets of that open. So do they have an objection to that? I don't know, because we didn't get to that point. And then if we could open up the south leg again and close the north leg of Mulberry and leave Second Street still open and that south piece open, I find it hard to believe they would object against that, but they might
But you will
still.
go talk to him?
So, yes. So we've got some phasing, but the most important thing in there is that item C on there is we could complete most of the underground. If we could get like a 1-week closure of Second Street sometime this fall, we would still allow traffic to go in to downtown on Second Street, but we would just detour traffic coming out and have it either go down a block and over and back out, or up a block, over and back out. So we wouldn't ever stop traffic going into downtown. I think they are probably not gonna see that very favorably, but I would at least like to make that presentation that way, is here's what we're thinking when we have that public info meeting that's coming up here pretty soon.
Okay.
I like that idea.
Yeah, we used to have a big sign up there that says,
Do
do
not
not
enter."
enter, because the one-ways went the wrong way, to be nice.
Ah, the good old
We
days.
changed that.
We talked about initially working in phases, so, I mean, what
Yeah.
you're proposing is ideally exactly what we had already discussed, so to me.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I
You're
think it's
not
good
closing,
information.
yeah,
for
you're
them.
not
We may run
closing
into the spring.
access
Let's
Yeah.
do
on
one.
Second.
Right, but I mean, conveying that message to the downtown businesses is critical. It's getting it delivered in some way positively so that they can understand. So that's part of why I'm letting you guys know that that's what's
It's
gonna
either
come
now or
up.
later, and that's the thing. So it's-
So Jim, is it possible to provide a schematic drawing or a map to
Yes.
show them how?
For that public meeting, we will have maps of that.
Probably be nice to share with council the map as well,
Yes.
so we can see.
We're never gonna forget you, Oz. Okay.
Okay.
Now, just one other thing that came up today, actually, maybe yesterday. 3rd Street, which is a closure just over here in front of the Hershey Building that's being
Yes.
rehabbed by Bush. That was a street closure, and you guys approved that a while ago, and then they got delayed, and then it got pushed off, and it's gone forever, and there was a little bit of confusion about when they finally did close it. I think everybody had had a chance to forget, including some people on staff, that there had been a closure approved for that, but they have hit one big problem out there. So instead of it being a simple tap on a water main and bring it over and get it into the basement and get it gone, the lower West Branch, old 100-year-old brick sewer that's there is about that far underneath the pavement and goes down. We don't really have it figured out yet how far it goes down. So there is going to be some engineering and some figuring out exactly how they get, and we support getting around there. That hole's going to be open for a while. I don't know how to tell you guys that any other way.
How long?
You want some more hay
Doesn't
bales?
bother your daily life, does it?
I'm not worried about my daily life, I'm worried about October 12th.
October 12th is what?
Second Saturday in
Soapbox
October,
Derby.
Soapbox Derby.
Good point. We will either have it solved by then, or we'll have it filled back in by then. How's that?
Okay, so the street will be open that day. Oh, well, open to derby cars anyway.
Honest to God, I think
ramp.
if I talk to them about, what did you say, October 12th? If I talk to them about October 12th right now, they probably say, well, we'll just fill this in and we'll figure out what we want to do and come back. I think it's going to take that long.
Okay.
So let me talk with them about that. Thank you, good point. I wasn't thinking of the soapbox.
And I understand, is there water filling up that hole at this point too
No.
from some unknown source?
No.
Okay.
Nope.
There's not,
There's an old wooden water main in there, though.
is there?
Yeah. Yeah, we thought that was kind of cool. All right, and I know I promised you one more thing, but I got one more thing. This is just for consumption, and we pass it out, but this is kind of what the duties of the right-of-way inspector have evolved into, and this is just information. You can read it, toss it. Any questions, comments, concerns, bits of wisdom, advice?
I just had a question in regards to your engineering guidelines, which you talked about when we said about on the SUDAS back then. How do we know when you start sharing information, that when somebody reads this on the website, what is pertaining for a household versus what is pertaining for like a city? Because
That is the major flaw of what was out there before, is it was all intermixed with stuff that applied to if you just wanted to do a repair or if you just wanted to do a driveway. And then all of a sudden, there's another paragraph that goes along with that appended on the bottom of it where it applies to if you're gonna do a subdivision. So the final step of this is once we get the rules the way we want them to be, is we're gonna parse them out into stuff that applies to subdivisions. And then stuff that's just a general guideline for the
like-
city
for
in
like a-
general.
Okay, but, so if it's a subdivision or just a general neighborhood household.
Yeah.
And he wants to do a repair, obviously, he wouldn't need to have C4. But the way I look at that now, it
Right.
would technically say, it would apply for me. Same thing with the amount of backfills, the amount of sieve, what kind of
Yep.
sand.
Yep. And again, it's fairly close to the format that was on the city's webpage now, but we've got to get to that, like I said, get it revised, get it split out into the things that it applies to and the things that it doesn't. But instead of worrying about how you meld all that together with one big huge event and also adopt SUDAS with all of the new stuff, we're gonna adopt SUDAS and use these as the revisions to it and let it evolve over time.
Okay.
Thank you for your
Thank you,
patience
Jim.
and attention.
All right, Councilman Malcolm, do you have anything to share tonight?
Nothing, Your Honor, thank you.
Councilwoman Brockert?
Riverbend neighbors will meet Monday at Fire Station Number 2 down on Stewart Road, and everyone is welcome to attend.
Councilman Harvey?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
Councilman Fitzgerald?
Nothing at this time, Your Honor.
Councilman Spread?
Nothing at this time, thank you.
Councilman Salcedo?
Yeah, I have one item. About a week ago, we got an email in regards to some concerns about inspections. What I'd like to do is I'm requesting, and I see this in the updates that we get from Greg in regards to permits, and normally August permits, stating how many permits we get. I'd like to see if we can also get what we have for feedback in those permits. Normally, we'd requested, about 2 years ago, I'd asked in regards to what kind of forums are we getting for feedback in regards to those inspectors? How are we gauging any constructive feedback that we need to do to work on, items either in communications or customer service based, or how can we improve? So if possible, I'd like to know what we have for those permits, what we can do, and if we can add rental inspections, because on the list right now, we have building permits, excavation permits, electric permits, so on, demo, mechanical, sidewalks, roofing, what's not. I'd like to make that request.
Thank you.
Other than that, that's all I have.
Councilman Brackett?
Fingers crossed we don't have a water hazard for the soapbox derby. That's about all I got.
Okay.
Gravel pit.
Chief?
Yeah.
Actually, this Saturday, September 14th at 7 a.m., we're going to be doing a wreath ceremony at the Public Safety Building in honor of Mike Cruz, Muscatine Fire's only line of duty death. So 7 a.m. Saturday morning wreath ceremony.
Oh, I know, I've got it on my agenda to get up early on Saturday, and then you could head on down to Farmers Market. And I just wanted to share that our next Our City show is going to be taped at Wildcat Den, Gristmill. We're gonna have a good tour and be able to share that with everybody. Hearing nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned.
You can do-